Hello and a warm welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shovoali. We begin today in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where rescue workers are searching for more bodies in a mine after an accident killed at least 36 people. According to the governor of Lualaba province, the accident occurred at an open pit mine. The area is known to be unstable and the miners were working illegally without proper equipment. Reports say this kind of unofficial mining is common in the area and people do it as a means to make a living. Efforts by security services to try and stop it are often fruitless. Mines in southern Congo produce more than half of the world's cobalt, a key element in batteries. In Ethiopia, nearly 250 people have been arrested in the capital, Addis Ababa, and the main city in its Amara region since a coup attempt was foiled. The country has been on edge since twin attacks at the weekend in Addis Ababa and the city of Baharda killed the army chief of staff, the region's president, and 3 other senior officials. The violence, which the government says was part of a plot by a rogue general and his militia to take over Amara, exposed how ethnic tensions are threatening the reform agenda of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Ethiopia's 42-year-old Prime Minister has won praise abroad for opening up one of the continent's most closed nations, but analysts say the rapid changes have fueled uncertainty and insecurity. Now, Tunisian President Beji Caid Essebsi has been admitted to hospital after suffering a severe health crisis. Mr. Essebsi, who at 92 is the world's oldest sitting president, was also treated in hospital last week. Prime Minister Youssef Chahed said the president is receiving all the attention he needs and people should stop spreading fake news about his condition. This follows reports that the president had died. Mr. Essebsi won Tunisia's first free elections in 2014 following Arab uprisings across the region. Now, Chinese President Xi Jinping has put forward a 3-point proposal on building a closer community with a shared future between China and African countries. On the sidelines of the Group of 20 summit in the Japanese city of Osaka, President Xi chaired a China-Africa leaders meeting, which was also attended by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Senegalese President Macky Sall, and UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. The leaders exchanged their views on deepening China-Africa cooperation, supporting African development, and other major issues. Earlier this week, China denounced what it called outside forces seeking to vilify cooperation by accusing China of creating debt traps. Now, the World Health Organization has praised health workers and health ministry officials in Uganda for their sharpened preparedness to respond to an outbreak. This comes after WHO's Regional Director for Africa, Dr. Matshidiso Moeti, toured the Kasese border area with the Minister of Health of Uganda, Dr. Jane Ruth Aseng. Since June 11, when Uganda declared the Ebola outbreak, there have been 3 confirmed cases, all of whom had traveled to the neighboring Democratic Republic of the Congo. Uganda shares a nearly 900-kilometer-long border with the DRC, where the disease has claimed more than 1,400 lives since August 2018.
We appreciate the investment that's gone into making sure that the system is up and ready to deal with patients when they arise, and we can only commit to continuing to support until the risk from across the border in the DRC is over, because we have to keep up these arrangements, this team at the ready in case somebody else is referred from entity.
Now, in Europe, the 42 migrants aboard a charity ship, Sea-Watch, are gradually losing hope of being allowed to disembark as the vessel remains outside an Italian port closely watched by authorities. Sea-Watch 3 entered Italian waters on Wednesday, defying an order from Rome to stay away and provoking the anger of Italian Interior Minister Matteo Salvini. The ship picked up 53 migrants from a rubber boat off the coast of Libya and has remained in international waters since June 12. 11 migrants have already been taken off the ship by the Italian Coast Guard due to health reasons.
From the beginning, we have tried to cooperate with the authorities. We have requested every day the engagement of the responsible countries. which in the beginning was Libya, who offered us to go to Tripolis as a port of safety, which is totally unacceptable according to the law cases which already have been happening, and due to the humanitarian situation and the civil war. We have engaged with Italy as the closest place of safety, but we also have engaged with the flag state, with Germany, with Malta and with France, but also the European Commission. It's been made very clear that none of these actors actually has any interest in finding a solution, and it ultimately has been us who had to take steps because nobody has taken the responsibility. We have been totally left alone, and the political game has been happening on side of all the state actors, but certainly not on our side. I have a strong trust in the jurisdiction of the Italian state. There's two laws which collide here. There's the maritime law, which clearly states that the rescue is concluded if the people are in a safe place, and I will bring them hopefully to a safe place. The other thing is that Mr. Salvini forbids entry to the territorial waters, and these two laws are conflicting, obviously, but I'm very sure that the Italian courts will find out that the life and the safety of the people rescued is much more important.
Meanwhile, the United Nations Refugee Agency, UNHCR, has expressed concern on the fate of the Sea-Watch's captain after the rescue boat with 42 migrants aboard entered Italian waters, defying an order from Rome to stay away. The captain of the German-owned boat, which flies the Dutch flag, has decided to head to the island because the situation on board is now more desperate than ever.
Now, the potential penalty on this captain, is something we are concerned about. We are worried that legal and logistical restrictions being imposed by states are having a deterrent effect on NGO boats just at the time they're needed most. The rate at which people are dying when attempting to cross the central Mediterranean is increasing to the highest we've seen in recent years. More resources are needed, whether they be NGO vessels or state vessels. More resources are needed to save lives at sea. This boat-by-boat approach cannot continue. We need states to come together and find a system that allows boats to immediately disembark in a port of safety with no returns to Libya, and then a responsibility sharing mechanism for hosting the refugees once they reach dry land. However, UNHCR is concerned at the recent proposed decree that has been proposed by the Italian government. This would include a number of measures that would impose penalties and fines on NGO search and rescue vessels that engage in search and rescue.
Now, with a biting economic crisis and the state unable to pay public salaries, Libyan women entrepreneurs are struggling to start their own businesses. Libya has only a tiny private sector, which means there is a market for locally produced goods. The economy is dominated by the state, which employs most adults under a structure set up by Gaddafi, who was toppled in 2011.
When inflation began eating into her state-paid salary, Libyan architect and assistant professor Seham Saleh started selling her drawings over the internet to help pay the bills. She joins a growing number of Libyan women launching startups in the conservative Arab country, where many still think a woman's place is in the home.
My drawings were all expressing the current situation in Libya. I felt it is really depressing that I'm addressing the current situation. I said, why don't I change the style and bring happiness to myself and other people following my page? I started drawing funny characters that reflect the Libyan identity.
However, the biggest challenges are legal hurdles and the lack of electronic payment systems. Some Libyan commercial laws go back to the 1960s and are aimed at big corporations, such as oil firms, not startups. Under these regulations, firms need to deposit thousands of dinars.
We face a number of challenges, some of which we can solve, while others can't be solved, unfortunately, including the political and security situation, because the political event, the administrative system, is not functioning. Banks do not give loans, which stops projects and makes them unable to develop or employ other women and youth.
Yasmin Koja's organization, the Jusor Center for Studies and Development, has trained some 33 would-be female entrepreneurs, offers legal advice and office space as women often can't afford their own. Once one of the richest countries in the region, the chaos and civil war that ensued after the fall of long-term leader Muammar Gaddafi has seen Libya's living standards erode. Little is now produced in Libya other than oil. Even milk is imported from Europe.
Now, Uber's chief business officer has outlined the ride-hailing firm's plans to offer new services in Nigeria and other African countries. Uber is in talks with regulators over plans to expand into 2 West African countries and provide a boat service in Nigerian megacity, Lagos.
In much of sub-Saharan Africa, there are low levels of personal car ownership, rapidly expanding populations, and a lack of efficient mass transport systems in fast-growing cities. Uber, which said it has 36,000 active drivers in sub-Saharan Africa, operates in a number of countries in East Africa and South Africa, but is largely absent from West Africa, aside from Nigeria and Ghana. Uber has identified West Africa as a region for potential expansion, and the company is in talks with regulators in Ivory Coast and Senegal regarding the possible launch of services.
Senegal and Dakar, very logical. Again, back to my original point, big cities with great opportunity, and so both Abidjan and Dakar are logical opportunities for us.
A number of motorcycle ride-hailing firms have also targeted West Africa as an area for expansion in the last few months. Ivory Coast and Senegal have 2 of the world's fastest-growing economies, according to the International Monetary Fund. And Nigeria, which has Africa's largest economy, is the continent's most populous nation. Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos, a megacity of around 20 million inhabitants built on a lagoon where Uber began operating in July 2014, is beset by heavy congestion. Uber says the company is in talks with state regulators about providing a transport system on the city's waterways as a way of bypassing its choked road.
We're looking at, of course, the waterways here, which are very interesting to us as it relates to potential service that may include the great geography that you have here. We spent yesterday a meeting with a bus company, Lagos Bus Company, to think about what we could do with buses. But in general, we work inside whatever frameworks the regulator and the government provide.
The company launched a boat service in the Indian city of Mumbai in the last few months. Uber faces stiff competition in African cities from Estonian ride-hailing firm Bolt, which until early 2019 was called Taxify. Bolt has grabbed business largely by taking a smaller cut from drivers using its app.
Still to come on the program. Hundreds flock to Morocco for the annual music festival. That's in a moment. Stay with us.